in bed and it just went mental. I got a message off my mate.
Literally, like the timing of it was just bloody awful.
Yeah.
I was on a Liverpool YouTube channel last night doing a game preview, and like halfway through they were like, Joe, we've got some really awful, because I put my phone on mute and everything. Like, Joe, we've got some really awful news. I was like, what? I was thinking it's going to be like an injury or something. And it's like, no, Caicedo has said he wants to leave. It's like, okay, amazing. I had to like fact check it and everything. And it was really hard to deal with, like, because I was so on the spot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, well. Okay. We'll wait for some people to join. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and the Twitter sphere. So hello, everybody, if you are watching today. Albion Obsessed joining you to react to the Moises Caicedo news last night, who released a statement saying that he wants to leave Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club, essentially saying goodbye already. We are joined by Dan, one of our regulars. So how are you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks, mate.
Good. Is that a Caicedo shirt in the background?
No,
it is.
It's not. Oh, his.
Oh,
it is.
Daniel.
Oh,
no. And we're also joined by Cohen. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. How are you?
So. I'm all right. we'll get there. We'll get there. We're getting used to it. It just seems to happen like monthly at the moment for Brighton. So I'm just going to read through the statement that Caicedo put out last night. I'm sure everybody's seen it, but just to recap. And so, first of all, it starts with Moises. I don't know why he's put his own name in there. He says, I'm grateful to Mr. Bloom and Brighton for giving me the chance to come to the Premier League, and I feel I have always done my best for them. I always play football with a smile and with my heart. I'm the youngest of 10 siblings from a poor upbringing in Santo Domingo in Ecuador. My dream always to be the most decorated player in the history of Ecuador. I am proud to be able to bring in a record transfer fee for Brighton, surprising that he already knows what fee it is, which would also allow them to reinvest and help the club continue to be successful. The fans have taken me into their hearts, and they will always be in my heart. So I hope they can understand why I want to take up this magnificent opportunity. First of all, Tom, our regular host, says hi. Hello, Tom. Shame you can't be here, but he's also on dad duty today. Right, let's get an initial reaction. We've had our probably hot-headed reactions last night. As you say, Cohen, we were sent into a bit of a spin. The Twitterverse went absolutely mental. And just first of all, get your thoughts on your initial reaction as to when that did break.
I mean, I was literally just about to get into bed, and then I got a message off my mate saying that I need to check Moises' Instagram, and I was like, right. I was expecting something like, oh, I'm definitely staying, and then it ended up being the complete opposite. And I mean, the first thing I did see was like, why did it start with Moises? It made no sense to me at all. But then as I read through it, I was a bit like, I don't think he would put it. I think it sounded more like something from his agents rather than him. I mean, kind of similar to the Cucurella situation, like it's trying to get pushed, and especially by Fabrizio Romano as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those situations where obviously like 4 days ago he signed for this new agency, and 3 days ago he said he's happy and focused on Brighton Hove Albion. 3 days later he's saying I want to leave, and Tom has said sounds like something his agent has typed up and sent into post. There was an infamous post, I think it was Victor Anichebe, who tweeted like 10 years ago, and he was like, say something like this: great from the lads today, what a win. So it just screams that, to be honest. Harry Pog says, ask Cohen if he's going to chant it up. So if you want to chant it up,
Harry, you're
Cohen?
not funny. Harry, you're not funny.
There you go. Kev says, afternoon, lads. Kev's a Liverpool fan, so hopefully we can do one on them tomorrow again. That'd be lovely. But hi, Kev. And Tom has also said, who starts the social post with their own name? Well, exactly. Dan, let's get your thoughts on your initial reactions when that news broke. Did you see it instantly, or was you late to the party?
I pretty much saw it instantly when I was just looking through Twitter, and all of a sudden it just popped up. I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, what is going on? And obviously, he's had his head spun somehow. I don't know, obviously, who's been in his ear. As we all said, his agent must have sent him something to say. Something, obviously, probably the whole thing's probably written by his agent because it said, just copy and post it onto your Instagram and on Twitter and whatever. Obviously, it's got to the point where, like, obviously, my own reaction is just like, it just keeps happening to us. Like, you don't see it happening to Brentford. You haven't seen it happen to Fulham. You know, they all ran the same sort of time, placing the standards as us, and they're not being picked clean for their players, just us. And it's just getting to the point where it's very frustrating, and it's just got, as I said, I put a tweet out basically just saying I despise this game that I really, really love, and just because of the money and agents just ruining it all. It's just it really has just got to the point where, like, this, you can't have anything good, and I've always said as well, like, the Leicester winning the title is literally becoming the worst thing ever to happen in football, because now the top six now just don't want that to happen. That's to happen again. It's just frustrating.
A lot of people, Cohen, say that we should take it as a compliment. What do you think of that comment? Do we take it as a compliment, or does it start to become tiresome?
They said it with Potter, and it's like, we have to be grateful for it. But at the same time, it's like, how are we ever gonna progress and like actually cement ourselves as a good team if we're gonna get all of our assets stripped constantly? Like, there's a level where it just starts to get silly. Like, yeah, we built good players, but everyone sees us as that club now, but they kind of see us as a feeder club rather than like a club who makes great players and then keeps them. We basically just develop them for the top six at this point, and we don't reinvest either.
Something that worries me is obviously I put full trust in Tony Bloom because he's got us to where we are today, and he continues to improve us. But the one thing that does concern me is his stance on not standing in people's way. I wonder at what point we have to be a little bit harsher and say no, and make an example of a player and say, look, you don't call the shots here, we do. We've not received the fee that we want, so you're not leaving. You're under contract at our football club, so you're going to play for our football club until a suitable offer comes in or your contract is up. A lot of people talking about the transfer fee, Dan. Mark Cohen says, how much do we rake in? What do you see that world record fee that Caicedo is talking about being?
I think that we all see the whole 100 million or nothing stance that we probably have put ourselves in. I've noticed that I think somebody's put out there, went, what about 90? And I was like, I think if it's that sort of thing where I'm under the impression that if the player doesn't want to be there, just take anything and go. Obviously that's not what we should be doing, really, because obviously as we all know, Moises Caicedo is probably one could go to the very top of this whole game. So if you're going for peanuts, it would be ridiculous to us to do right now. So probably the best thing to do is try and get as much as we can. If it was 90, then I probably would say, yeah, maybe 90 would be decent. But if the club says 100 million or nothing, I'll totally back that.
I personally think that, like, I don't think any amount of money can really take him from us now. Like, this is our best chance of Europe, like, ever. So I just think that we need to keep him at least till the end of the season and then entertain offers then. Like, at the moment, like, 100 mil, yeah, it's crazy money. But just the thing is that he's just so valuable to us for this season, at least. I just think any money would just be ruining our chances of Europe. And it's like, we've got 2-3 days left to make signings. It's not like we can do much.
Yeah, the timing stinks. Curtis has pointed out that at what point does it become about the money? I'm super concerned about how the club will end up if we allow these transfers. Money, fine, but we need the players. And you're right, Cohen. We've got three odd days to replace Moises Caicedo, and that is no mean feat. We were worried about replacing Basuma. Obviously, Caicedo filled that role really well. I know they're sort of slightly different midfielders, but he's given us so much more than what Basuma has, in my opinion, over this short period of time than what he was in the squad. So it's going to be really difficult if he does go. But I really, really believe from what I've seen this morning, that the club stand firm, and we're in the best position. We've changed the narrative of what Fabrizio Romano is trying to push, that Caicedo has refused to train. Caicedo is refusing to play for the club until he gets his move. I don't think that's the case at all. Only Fabrizio Romano is reporting that. Everyone else, including The Athletic, have reported that it's the club that have told Moises Caicedo to stay away. Dan, is that the best move that the club can make, is to tell him, look, don't come back until you're ready to play for us?
I think that's the best thing we can do right now. We have to sort of keep the core players that obviously want to be here to basically to focus on the next game, not to focus on transfers away or whatever. Because as soon as that's this one bag egg can ruin the bunch, we don't want everyone else thinking, oh, we could do the same thing and this, that, and the other. And it's just, I think it's the best thing we have to do is just keep him away. If he wants to come back into the squad, to be honest, after that statement, I'm not sure I'd even welcome him back, to be fair. But but if he comes back, he has to put in the effort to show that he wants to take us to where we want to go, play like he wants us to support him to play. Then in the summer, he can then take his pick of where he wants to go, because I'm sure he'll have many more offers to the table than just 2 right now.
Yeah, a lot of people. I tweeted the same question, Dan, last night, saying, "Look, if Caicedo does stay, does he still play? Would you still play him?" Cohen, where do you stand on that?
I think there's got to be some kind of punishment if it is primarily from him. If it's from the agents, it's still a bit so. But I think he does need at least some time away from the club, just to clear his head. And then I think if he's back with the right mentality, I think he should get back into the team, because there's no denying he's a world-class player. We need him in the team, and that's why there's such a meltdown of him leaving, really. And
I just want to come back to this comment from FM Creates. Would you be happy with Basuma as a replacement? Obviously, I've just said Caicedo gives us more than what Basuma does. I'm not taking away anything that what Basuma done for us. I think he was an exceptional player. Just goes to prove how good Caicedo is. Would you take Basuma back, Cohen?
I feel like Basuma doesn't fit I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? I don't think he really fits the double pivot that we play. But I feel like De Zerbi's a top coach, and Basuma has the talent, and he has the talent to do that. So I think if he did come back and then De Zerbi hit it into him to play that way, I think he definitely has the ability to do it. And just on the ball, he's unreal. And we've known that from the time he had here.
Yeah, it's quite sad to see the downfall of Basuma at Spurs, to be honest. Rotting on the bench. We know how good he is. So I for one wouldn't be against him coming back. And I think he thrives off being that star man in a squad. And he's gone to Spurs and he's not been that star man. And so I think if he comes back to us, then maybe. Obviously, this is all if, buts, and maybes. We do have some breaking news, though. Connolly has just scored for Hull. So that is rather insane. Probably the most craziest news I've heard in the last 2 days. And that trumps Caicedo.
Were they
Gary
playing?
Merritt. I don't know. Let me have a look. Hull score. QPR.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, Gary Merritt says, I assume that's referring to Basuma. He would not fit in, I think, maybe, but we all know how good a coach De Zerbi is, and he's changed Solly March's fortunes in front of goal, so that the man can perform miracles. I love Solly, just putting that out there, but we all know he wasn't the best in front of goal. Tom says, don't forget the new Argentinian lad, Buonanotte. Yeah, he's got a slight injury at the moment. I don't know how bad that is. Don't know if he comes in. Getting a new Swedish lad too, Ayari, is it? He looks.
Ayari,
he from what I've seen, I don't claim to be an expert on him, but he looks okay. He looks decent. I'm excited to see him. And Jakob Moder returning as well. So Dan, we do have midfield options, but do you still worry that we haven't got that quality?
I think with, obviously, we know how good Caicedo is, and obviously we lose that massive bit of quality. Obviously, Moda's just come back from a massive injury, a long time off. He probably isn't going to be match fit probably now for maybe another month or so. So who we have after that, obviously Billy Gilmore hasn't really had a sniff. He could come in and probably do a good job. It's hard as well, as I'm saying with Basuma as well. You sort of look at the Basuma obviously at the moment, you sort of go, would he come back and obviously have the form he was when he was at the club? It'd be one of those things where it'd be still a risk itself to bring him in to replace Caicedo anyway. But if we can get him playing the way he was, then certainly it'd be great to have him back. But obviously the Italian manager, obviously he has underneath at the moment, can't get that quality out of him. Hopefully this Italian manager could, but there's all ifs and buts. But I think I'm not sure with the other options we have. Obviously, I don't really know much about the two new guys, but it's one of those things. If we decide we can do it with Caicedo, we'll just have to hope and pray everything will be okay afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people mentioning Billy Gilmore in the comments. He came in permanently from Chelsea in the summer. Probably not quite getting the credit he deserves because of how good our midfield has been. Obviously, was at a Norwich side last season that got relegated. But before that, he played really well for Chelsea. He won all sorts of player of the matches in European competitions, in the FA Cup, in the Premier League. So there is a player there coming. Do you see Billy Gilmore being the immediate answer to Caicedo if he was to go?
I mean, yeah, because we don't have much else really, but they're just not really the same kind of player. And I think it's also worth noting we have Kolovsky, I think his name is, and Alzate on loan. But at the same time, I think this summer we will need, like, whether Caicedo goes or not, we will need a clear out midfield, because I don't think those players coming back from loan, like Kolovsky's still young, maybe another loan for him, but I don't think Alzate, I don't think Moda is really the quality that we need now. Gilmore can be, but again, like, he's young, there's still time for him, and De Zerbi obviously will get the best out of him, but I feel like this summer we will need to strengthen in midfield. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know about you, but Alzate, Moda, for me, I don't think they're at the level that we need them to be.
Yeah, I've got no doubt that they're great squad players. I think that they've got the quality to come in if we were in an emergency. But you're right. The quality that we've got in midfield at the moment: Caicedo, Alexis Mac Allister, Pascal Gross, Adam Lallana. I know Adam Lallana's getting on a bit, and that he's very Marmite with the fans. But there's no doubt in what he gives us. Look at the change in the performance of when he came off against Leicester. He's a leader on the pitch, and he gives us so much. So yeah, you're right. There's not that quality to replace, and I'm even worried about Alexis Mac Allister leaving in the summer. I've got no doubt that clubs are going to come in for him. He's just won a World Cup. If players want an example of how to act and how to be humble in your ability, you look at Alexis Mac Allister. The guy has literally just won a World Cup next to the greatest player that's probably ever graced the football pitch. Obviously, opinions on Messi, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, whatever, Pele. But in my opinion, the best player that's ever played on a football pitch. And he's come back to Brighton. He's extremely humble. He played in a cup game against Middlesbrough, scored a brace, continues to shine every week. Dan, how much of a breath of fresh air is that in amongst Trossard, Caicedo, Graham Potter leaving at the start? It's just such a breath of fresh air.
Especially when, like, you think, like, how many of our World Cup stars all want Leeds, and there's one player that won a World Cup, and he's sitting pretty and saying, yeah, I'm all right here. I'm all good, which is great to see. Whenever we're going to say, maybe even in the future, that we have a World Cup winner sitting in our squad, playing every week for us, for Brighton, I think if you told people when they were losing the Goldston that, one day you'll have a World Cup winner in your squad, or laugh in your face. It's amazing to see that his attitude towards us all. Like, yeah, I'm all right. I'll play here for the rest of the season. Maybe then we'll look at it towards the summer. But if not, probably he'll probably have the same attitude, like, oh, maybe no one else, nobody can fit me in their squads. I'll carry on. This is just the type of guy he is. It seems so humble, such a great guy. You see the video with the kids, literally let kids hold his World Cup medal and take pictures with it. Amazing to see. It's so great to see people like that, and you see people like Trossard basically throwing the toys at the pram because he didn't play a few games, and obviously and agents coming into telling their players, oh yeah, angle for a move, especially for Arsenal. You can win a Premier League at the end of the season. It's just great to see when there's a player like that in your squad, and it probably reflects everybody else thinking that they're all happy to have him in the squad and be around this type of player, and I can't believe he still plays for us. To be fair, but
well, yeah, exactly. I mean, imagine being a young Andy Moran and you're playing or training week in, week out with a World Cup winner who's just spent 6 weeks with Lionel Messi. Like, that is the best education you're going to get from a player, and playing with Adam Lallana, who's been part of a Premier League winning squad and a Champions League winning squad. So there's no doubt that our squad is packed full of decorative silverware, which obviously for different teams, but it's good to have that experience. Alexis did the same. I'm just reading the comment here. Alexis did the same as Ben White. Ben agreed a new contract with the club, and the club agreed he could leave the following year. He'll 100% go. Club protecting their value. See, the thing is with Alexis, I think if we do the unthinkable and get Europe, I think he'll stay. I think he remains a part of especially if it's Europa League. I don't see him wanting to abandon ship unless it's a Champions League winning squad or something like that. I don't see him abandoning ship that quickly, especially with how humble he is. I don't think you can compare it to Ben White, to be honest, because he sort of I think he tried to force a move to Leeds before he went to Arsenal. I could be wrong. Then played a season with us after signing a new deal, which is correct. But Alexis signed a new deal without any transfer speculation before a World Cup, and then he's won the World Cup, and his value has skyrocketed. So yeah, I'm not sure on that. Harry says, thoughts on Shakhtar demanding £30 million for Matvienko. I think as Brighton fans, we have to be humble and say, if that's the price they want for him, we've been saying it, you pay the price that the club want to pay. So I think we have to be very much the same. But would you like to see Matvienko come in, Cohen?
I mean, I think, like, I've not seen much of him. Like, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in the Ukrainian league, but if De Zerbi wants him, De Zerbi's worked with him before. He's done wonders with us already. Like, if he wants, like, as his top priority, if he wants him, get him. Like, we have the money, 60 odd million for Cucurella. Even that alone is enough for him and more. Like, we just need to back him now, I think. And if we don't, we've got to remember, like, there's going to be other clubs, other bigger clubs that are going to be wanting him. Like what we went through with Potter. Like, other clubs are going to get in for him. We've still got to, like, remind ourselves that money and that status is still going to be more than us. So if we don't back him, I genuinely do think in a couple of years he'll go. Like, now is the perfect time to back him for this Europe push, especially if we lose Caicedo.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really good point as well about how well he's been doing for us and the need to back him, because the club were very, very quick to offer Graham Potter a bumper contract when he'd done so well so very early into his Brighton career. And so I think personally it's only right that De Zerbi gets the same, whether that be through a new contract or whether that be through, as you say, backing him in a transfer window. I don't think it's going to happen because we've got 3 days left. We've got so much money in the bank that clubs know how much money we've made. It's no secret. So they are going to be pushing for the maximum fees for the players that are going to come to Brighton, especially after seeing the success of Alexis Mac Allister from the Argentinian League, Caicedo from South America, and Enciso from South America. I know Enciso hasn't played that much, but it's clear to see the quality that he can have. So I think even these lesser known clubs are going to be pushing for more. because they know the transfer value is going to be ridiculous. Or they'll add in some crazy sell-on fee or something like that, or sell-on clause. Let's just have a quick look through the comments. Kev says Coutinho did exactly this and Klopp kept him for 6 months. But in that 6 months, plans were put in place. You've got a good board, so I expect planning is already happening. Yeah, I think what's great about our board is the fact that we are constantly planning maybe like 3 or 4 steps ahead, which is amazing to see that there might be this guy waiting out on loan that's going to come back and do as well as Caicedo did. Who knew that Caicedo was going to come back from Beershot and be so impactful in our season? I think it was through an injury, or we needed more midfield numbers, and he's just come in and lit it up. Dan, are you? This is a silly question because I think I know the answer, but are you still putting full faith in the board that we are going in the right direction if Caicedo's to go?
I think after last night, I sort of like we need to do something about Caicedo's obviously him trying to do something. But I do think they know the best thing. We sort of were a bit skeptical about De Zerbi to start off with. I think some people were. I did see a lot of people saying they weren't very sure, because especially like pundits and stuff, you kept seeing it saying they weren't sure because of his experience not in the league. But then obviously he's played, obviously had a few games now, and obviously now he's got the experience. But like when Paul Bowler said before that De Zerbi was hired, they keep an eye on everything. They're always a few steps ahead of everything, and obviously that's shown that they brought the right person, or they would have been the right person in after Potter decided to jump ship and go join the sinking ship that is now Chelsea. And I'm sure they do the same thing with transfers. They keep an eye on the next big thing. Obviously, you got the Swedish guy. Obviously, they're saying that he's the next big thing in Swedish football, and obviously, if he does come in, obviously they're sort of gone quiet that side. Obviously this could be good for that country as well, to have a player like that. Obviously, their next big thing playing in the biggest league in the world. So I do have faith in they'll do the right thing. I'm sure they must have somebody in mind if they're going to, because they have to know that Caicedo would have so much interest in, especially after a World Cup where he sort of did impress. So there's every single player we sent there, near enough and then where people were talking about them. So I'm sure they have an idea of who to look at and who to buy. But obviously, if the money is not right, the money's not right. But that's the only part I'm not 100% on for the club, because obviously they want to sort of buy cheaply to sell expensive, which we all know they can do. But obviously, that's what we have to do. We have to buy cheap to get cheap.
Yeah,
that's how they would have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Matty has pointed out, why do people think we all have all this money to spend? 190 mil, probably get 60 to 80. I mean, nobody actually said a figure on here, I don't think. But 60 to 80 mil is still a lot of money to spend for Brighton. You were thinking about Matvienko, if we can get a meet in the middle deal for him of £25 million, let's say, that you're still left with a good 50 odd million pounds to spend, and that is enough to back De Zerbi and to get some players in. Again, my point was, people know that we've got money to spend, so they are going to put a premium on their players. Harry says, I think the saddest bit about Caicedo is he's not even played a full season for us. I think he's played 26 Premier League games, Cohen. That's a pretty hefty price tag if we're saying £100 million for someone that's played 26 Premier League games.
Yeah, but it feels like he's played a lot more, doesn't it? Like, I actually didn't know he played that little, but at the same time, if you're making that much of an impact in that little games or that few games, then you've got to be a great player. I think 100 mil is fair, because it's not just about him as a player, it's about the value to us, which I feel like other fans don't understand. It's like they see it very black and white. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just about how much you're worth, it's about how much you're worth to a club, which they don't see. They just buy players and like they just keep buying and buying and buying, and when they sell, it's just as much as they're worth, because it's usually to another top team that don't really care.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we know it's not lost on us just because he's thrown his toys out the pram like Trossard did, that how good Caicedo can be. We sing a song about him hopefully winning the Ballon d'Or. And he can be that good. The guy is just, he's made a serious impact. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a Brighton player come in and make that much of an impact to a team. Like, he was just winning ball after ball. He played against Man City, I think, in his second or third game, and he was running the midfield. I know we got beat, but he was still running the midfield with De Bruyne in the midfield, which was just insane to see. And if he keeps his feet on the ground, Caicedo, if you keep your feet on the ground, you will go to the top. Don't. It's easy for me to say this because I'm a Brighton fan. Don't jump ship at the first opportunity just because the money's there. It's clear to see that the grass isn't always greener. Graham Potter's struggling. Basuma struggling. Kukurea struggling. Yet to see what Trossard can do. He's played, 60 minutes for Arsenal now? I don't know how long he played last night. But he could end up rotting on the bench. So I think it's really important for players to, and I've made this point 10 minutes ago, to look at Mac Allister and take a leaf out of his book and just keep improving with the team that he's in. Why change your team? Like De Zerbi said in the press conference, why change something if it's working so well for you? So I don't know. But Brighton and Hove Albion Cambodia fan club say hello from Cambodia. So hello, you guys. Tom says, but he's only on 3K a week. Dan, I saw you tweeting about this. Take the floor, mate.
So I don't know where this has come from. This 3K basically rubbish. I thought myself, yeah, where are they getting this information from? So I was like, if they're getting it from FIFA or Football Manager, I'll have a look. And they both say 30K. I'm like, right. So I googled it, and then obviously the first one come out, it said around about 15. So obviously, I doubt anybody really actually knows. But like, I did see on one of the things I was looking at, like there was like one that was 3K, but that was like before this. I think it was this season. But obviously, it must be like maybe that he obviously as he's now transferred into the first team, maybe they've upped his contract differently. His contract changed with his transfer over to being a first teamer rather than an unders player. That's probably what's happened. Obviously, whereas people just sort of gone, oh, he's an unders player, he's probably only on like 3K a week, and kept that narrative. Whereas the reality is probably on like 15 to 30, I'd imagine. Even that's probably not one of our highest earners, but no, that's still enough. They always make it sound like, oh, he's on minimum wage, but he's not on minimum wage. You know, to me to get the same amount he gets in a week, I have to work 2-3 months. You know, and it's just ridiculous. I don't get why they just carry on a narrative, whereas they say, oh, so he's on 3K. Like, do you have your source? Do you actually have his contract in front of you? Does actually to prove it to us? You know, it's just how it is.
Ridiculous. It's a ridiculous world football when 3.5K a week is seen as low money. Cohen, what's your take on people seemingly to be in the know about all of our players?
I think I find it quite funny because over the past like 24 hours, I've had a ton of Arsenal fans saying like, you're paying him 3K a week. Like it's like, have you seen people that have been saying like we're mistreating him by paying him so little? And it's like, it's still a lot of money. Plus, it's not even right. You're looking at some like outdated website from like a year ago and believing it, or you're seeing it on Twitter and you're believing it. I think I've seen a few that said it's like 24K and a few that said it's 30. So I reckon it's like in a clause in his contract, like a certain amount of games or like his like first team status or whatever. Like there's no way that we're paying him $3.5 grand a week. It's not true. Like as simple as that, really.
Yeah. Well, if it is on the amount of games and he doesn't force his way through, I think he could be in for a spell on the sidelines, especially with De Zerbi's comments about Leandro Trossard. If you don't want to give 100%, if you don't want to play for me, I'm not going to play you. So that will be a really interesting sort of thing to observe. if that move doesn't go through. Harry says, is there an argument to say in such little time that Caicedo is Brighton's best ever player? For me, it's Alexis Mac Allister. After what he's achieved, it's, as Dan said, if you told me 10, 15 years ago that Brighton would have a World Cup winner in our squad, I would have seriously laughed at you. And especially one so humble. Let's have a look at a few comments. I wish you'd done this better, man. I can see where he's coming from. Get on the train and don't let chances slip by. But why would he been worth the same at the end of the season? I think there's a possibility that he could have been worth more, Dan.
I think if you look at it as well, like, I don't get why they're making it like somewhere for him now. I know this window is every player sort of over their valuations or whatever, just because obviously where it's a sort of rubbish time, you only got 1 month to get our transfers in. But if he took us to Europe, surely that his value would either be the same or even more. So that the payday could even be even more. But when I watch the transfer show, they all say, "Oh, in the summer he'll have 2 months left, 2 years left, and his value would be about the same." They all said this. They all kept saying it. That his value would be, they'll find the time that be the time with the sale, to sort of the 2 year period. If you don't want a new contract, get his full price then. So I don't get why now they're thinking this market think, oh, this is the maximum time to get his value. Where I could say, as I say, if we did the unthinkable, got to any Europe, I don't mind which one, his value would be either about the same or maybe just get that touch bit more.
Yeah. James has said his agents have done him dirty because now he's going to miss a match or more and not even get the move he wants. I'm growing more and more confident by the hour, Cohen, that we are really going to dig our heels in and just say no and just keep him away. We've seen it before with transfer requests, Dale Stevens, Lewis Dunk. I'm probably missing a few more. Elliot Bennett, Andrew Crofts, I believe, has been mentioned as well. And I know that was for considerably less money, but our stance doesn't change, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we said right from the start, we're keeping him. Like, any transfers won't be entertained, and I feel like part of it is like other clubs just not respecting it, and I feel it's a bit cheeky from him to kind of even offer it anyway. I also think that it will be interesting to see how it plays out, because I think if he does stay, he might well already sack his agents, because there is a big chance that he wasn't really involved in it, because I think most agents have the social media presence for like the players now. So for me, it's just a really weird situation. No one really knows what's true. No one really knows what's not. No one knows the ins and outs apart from obviously us, like the club. And it's like, I think, there's still, I don't think as a punishment as much as he just needs to clear his head, but he definitely does need a bit of time off.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. As you were speaking then, saying like how incredible this is going to see to play out, it's probably been one of the most craziest transfer sagas in Brighton and Albion's history. And I think Amazon have missed a massive trick with not giving us an all or nothing documentary this season. With all that's gone on, Dan, how good would that have been to see?
It would have been amazing to see, everything that's gone on with like Trossard having a Barney with Lallana, and then all this saga of this month, obviously then if anything's previous, obviously stuff that hasn't come out, there probably has been other stuff. This I would definitely have paid good money to watch that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, and obviously everything like good that's happened as well with Mac Allister coming back from the World Cup. We could have had cameras in players' houses watching them watch their friend win a World Cup. And it's just, I think they've missed a massive, massive trick. Harry says the things I would do to see a Brighton all or nothing. I think the club are maybe becoming a little bit more open to letting the media in a bit more now. We're seeing a little bit more behind the scenes stuff, like after games and like in training. There's a lot on the YouTube about like who's going to be the manager that comes out of the squad, who's the quickest. I love seeing that sort of stuff, and it just gives you much more of a connection to the players. Like I've watched the Arsenal one, Man City one, and I've really enjoyed them. So I would love to see a Brighton one. Alfie Grove says players are so entitled nowadays. The culture is changing, an obscene amount of money in football now. It brings me back to your tweet, Dan, of you saying you're falling out of love with it. Where does it stop?
I'm hoping it will stop soon. To be fair, it's you're sitting there, overachieve. You could argue overachieving, and then you get a big glimpse of something good, and then the big clubs get a bit worried, and they go, they're having a bit of success there. I don't like that. Oh, I'll sack my man at sack Tuchel. So Chelsea went, we'll sack Tuchel. Oh, I know. I'll bring in Graham. Graham Potter's doing well for that little club up the road. I'll get him in. They'll then literally then decide actually he wants to bring everybody with him, so we'll just take them all out of this club, and literally then they'll be left with nothing. And then we have to try and figure out a way to bring someone in. Luckily, it has worked out for us with De Zerbi and to bring his staff as well. And literally, like the transfers haven't really affected either. We're still attracting these wonder kids and stuff like that. So that's not been affected. But as we say, like we've got these good players. Obviously, we had the massive discussion on the group chat about Trossard. With the fact that obviously like they're making him sound like he's the best thing since sliced bread, and really for us he really wasn't. He can have the times where we can name a few times where he was so good for us, and obviously then there's times where he went missing. And then obviously then he's got his move that he wanted. Then then we've got like Caicedo now doing nearly the same things. Obviously now he's seen Arsenal. Same with Trossard, where he's gone, I can get a Premier League medal at the end of the season. That really grinded my gears when I saw Trossard was going to go to Arsenal. So I'm going, he just kicked up a stink at our club, got a move he wanted, and now he could potentially get a Premier League medal for his bad attitude. And literally, is like, I don't like that. Obviously, now Caicedo looks like his agent's gone, we could do exactly the same. And took a leaf out of Trossard's agent's book and done that. It's getting to a point where we can't have any success. It just feels like if we got anywhere near any success, they'll just go, no, you're not having it. We're going to want it. This is what I said earlier. Everyone loves the fact that Leicester won the title that year. They fully deserved it. They were a really good team that year. But since then, the big six are all gone. We ain't having that again. And making sure it's not happening again.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it's like when they tried to form their little Super League, and that didn't go through, did it? Because there'd be nothing without us. Anyway, so I'm just going to quickly play, because I forgot to at the start. We've got a voice message from Aaron, who's a host on the podcast, and Tom as well. I understand this is before the watershed. I'm about to play Aaron's message. We all know Aaron doesn't mince his words. So if there's any kids watching, please cover their ears now. I've given you fair warning. Here we go.
Good afternoon, Albion.
If it works.
Afternoon, Albion SS listeners. Apologies for my absence from the Caicedo reaction. Just finished work, and I've got a game later on this afternoon, so I'm not really about to react live. My thoughts on the whole Caicedo situation, in my opinion, is just downright disrespectful towards the club and also towards the players, let alone disrespectful to the fans who stood by him these last 18 months. I think it's just disgusting how it's been handled. He needs to look at himself as well as the agent he has picked. Clearly the agent has been pulling the strings like the puppet master that 90% of the agents actually are. Modern day football is a fucking mess because of it. It's the reason why we can't enjoy anything for a long period of time as Brighton fans. Well, anything we enjoy gets snatched away from us very, very, very quickly. I'm bitterly, bitterly disappointed that the fact he decided to put an Instagram post out, which is so unprofessional, it's an actual joke. But that's just my opinion on that. If we do sell him, it's got to be 100 mil plus. And if we don't sell him, tough. We wait till the summer. And we accept 85 mil plus in the summer. Nothing less than that is good enough. And Bloom knows that, Barber knows that. I can guarantee now De Zerbi is losing his shit here. I can guarantee you that. Because he's acted like a petulant little bitch. Not even a baby, like a little bitch from this whole situation. The whole, I'm focused on Brighton, I'm here to enjoy myself, blah, blah, blah. It's just all lies. All lies. And yet you've got Alexis Mac Allister, who's one of the most genuine guys in this team, and yet no one wants to buy him. He's a World Cup winner, but no one wants to buy him. And even so, I still think he'll turn him down because he believes in the project. And Caicedo has acted like a little whinging little baby to get his move, which, to be honest, I hope he doesn't get. I hope he doesn't get. And then if we don't play him again, good. Put him down the 23s. Let him rot. Let him rot. Let Billy Gilmore step up and, it's time to step up and take his opportunity. Is he as good as Caicedo? No, but he still do a bloody damn better job than anyone else in that team. I think a serious conversation needs to be had with the FA about agents, and I think it needs to be sorted because they are ruining football. They are ruining modern day football, and I would love to go back to the days when we were shit, when no one would batter an eyelid about us. We'll be going about our thing, enjoying the football, probably more so than we do now, because it just feels like anything good that this club builds gets snatched straight away from the big six, alleged big six. How can little clubs compete anymore? How? It's just not possible. I am done. I am absolutely done with modern day football at this moment in time. I'm sorry I'm rambling on, but the moral story is Bloom will not move his price tag. If anyone doesn't bid that much, they don't go. Simple as. But apparently Arsenal fans are too fucking entitled to realise what that means. So, 65 mil will get him. No. We've set our price, you match it, we take it. But no, they're too fucking stupid to understand. You're good for 1 year, it's still been shit the last 20.
So that was Aaron. Passionate as always. But, as the guys have pointed out in the chat, well said, and he is absolutely spot on.
100% right.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had a lot of my friends or fans of other teams sort of speak to me today, and they're like, "Oh, it happens all the time. That's just football. You're not allowed to be sad. Why are Brighton fans so sad about this? Are we not entitled to be passionate and angry about what's happening to our football club?" I've no doubt in my mind that if it was happening to one of their best players, they would be feeling exactly the same way. Alfie says, you might as well watch Burgess Hill if this saga continues in the future. Thank God for Bloom and Barber. Absolutely. Tom says, wish those big six had effed off into the Super League. Correct. And Harry says, I think that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard as a Brighton fan. And so that's some high praise for you there, Aaron. If you are watching, I think he's playing a game actually, but he'll watch this back, I'm sure. But yeah, no, passionate as always, Aaron, and you're absolutely right. I've got one more voice note to play. It's 3 minutes long and another 58-second one. So this is Tom, who, as I say, is a regular host on Albion Obsessed.
Ultimately, it's very disappointing that Moises has put in a very public transfer request. I don't doubt for a second that this is mostly down to his new agents that are probably seeking a massive payday for their latest client. I do believe that the noise we heard a week ago about him wanting to stay and head down, work hard. I do think that was legit. But I think with Arsenal coming in the position they're in the table, it probably has turned his head a bit. And as I say, agents look at that and go, cha-ching, we can make loads of money here. It's very disappointing. I think in all this, though, we've got to remember that Tony Bloom is no mug. We've seen this before. Dale Stephens springs to mind, Lewis Dunk, Elliot Bennett, I think Crofts as well, potentially. I know for a fact, Elliot Bennett put in a transfer request this time in 2011. Bloom refused it, and he left in the summer. And I think that is probably what's going to happen here. Bloom will not let Caicedo go for anything less than he deems appropriate. It doesn't matter how public Moises wants to be with it. They're playing poker with the wrong man. I have full faith in Tony Bloom, and I genuinely think there's a lot of noise happening around it. Hopefully we'll see Moises come back after the transfer window and put his head down, work hard, help us get to that European spot. And then he probably, he will go in the summer. Let's hope that is the outcome. But ultimately, as Aaron alludes to, or has alluded to, if you've heard it already in his voice note, it's just modern agents ruining football, and people like, Fab, just, they must be getting some money, because what they do to unsettled players is just disgusting. But no, keep the faith, because Bloom has been here before. We as a club have been here before. Remember, with Ben White, with Basuma, with Trossard, with Cucurella, none of those players have been allowed to leave until our valuation has been met. So keep that in the faith. If Moises does go this transfer window, it will be for an obscene amount of money. And he'll still probably be our record signing when he does eventually leave in the summer, for probably what will still be an obscene amount of money. So, really messy situation, really unfortunate. But in my opinion, right thing of the club to do, to tell him to take some time off to get his head in the right place. So when he comes back in February, he can hit the ground running with a clear head and hopefully help the club push on. Stay positive. Whatever happens, happens. But Tony Bloom is the man.
Yeah, a lot of praise for Tony Bloom in that one from Tom. And I think the praise has to be given. As he says, you're playing poker with the wrong man. One comment that flashed up as Tom was speaking, I want to come back to Sandra. I'm not sure why Brighton fans are triggered by Big Six fans. They are not involved in negotiations. We're very aware they're not involved in the negotiations, Sandra. However, it's their entitlement. Their entitlement that they can think that they can just essentially play FIFA and offer whatever the FIFA value is, and for Brighton fans to go, okay, Caicedo, off you go. Thank you so much, Mr. Caicedo. Enjoy your Premier League medal. Enjoy your obscene amount of money. That's where the anger comes in, is because of the complete disrespect. And the guys in the comments, Alfie says, what are you on about, Sandra? They've overstepped the line once again. I think he's right in saying that, because we have told these Big Six teams that Caicedo is, for no uncertain terms, not for sale. I don't know what they don't understand about the phrase not for sale. Harry says, Sandra, we are upset with the Big Six fans because of how they do not respect the club's valuation of Caicedo, and that you can get him for less than what he's worth. I think they've hit the nail on the head there. So, guys, any final thoughts on this whole crazy situation?
I just wanted to say on that comment, that's basically like saying we shouldn't be mad if we lost the game because we're not the ones playing it. It's like, we're fans of the club. Like, obviously, if stuff like this is happening, we're going to be annoyed at it. And yeah, I mean, I think we've covered basically everything. It's just entitlement, disrespect, and just a lack of respect for the club and the praise that we've given him and the belief that we put in to him of being a great player, which he's become. But if he leaves like this, like Trossard did, it just makes me like scared to fall in love with any player.
Yeah, Follow up to that comment, Sandra. What the Big Six fans view means nothing. It doesn't mean anything in the negotiation. Absolutely not. But it means something to us fans who are passionately following our football club, and are constantly being disrespected. You can't take that feeling away, that emotion away, just because it's a Big Six fan. You're in football debate. You're going to feel fiery. You're going to feel passionately because you feel passionately on the stands about your football club. You're right, Cohen. What you're saying, we support our football club up and down the country. Well, a lot of people do, those who are able to. And you're absolutely right to have your feelings and to feel anger towards a bunch of people that just simply don't get it. Sometimes I feel like these Big Six fans don't quite grasp the true meaning of football. Is to follow a team and to see a team get promoted and to see a team build something. All they build through is money. And I'm not saying we've not spent money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not ignorant in the fact that we also take players from other teams and we also spend transfer fees, but we're not doing it willy-nilly just because the teams below us are doing so well. So I don't quite agree with that, Sandra. But you're welcome to put your thoughts in the comments. Dan, what's your take on that?
You can sort of see with I always think to yourself, if you look at United back in the 90s with Sir Alex Ferguson, they were doing so well, brilliantly, winning titles here, there, and everywhere, away from the 2000s, and obviously in the 2010s, obviously he's retired. And obviously then you look at the entitlement that Man United fans had over, why are we down here? Why are we all of a sudden come down to this sort of area? And it wasn't enough for them. And I think now on their way back up again, I think they've sort of got that. And, with our sort of story, not a lot of clubs have the same story as us. We've had to literally come from literally straight down the bottom right to the top. Whereas, say, United, basically, if you look at who founded the Premier League and basically who hardly ever stepped out of it, I think Everton have never even got out of there. And obviously, by looks, they could be doing it for the first time this year. And, it's an entitlement, whereas, they don't have the same story as us. And obviously, whereas we feel passionate because we helped save the club. Well, we didn't, but, fans had to essentially help save the club. And, we nearly lost it in the 90s. And then we had to build it literally from the bottom, from literally nothing. We had no ground. We had nothing to then build it to what we are now. And that's why we feel so passionate about our club because it's just basically, we had nothing at one point. Whereas Chelsea, basically, they had a good team in the 90s. I don't know how many, I don't think they won any titles, but they did well in cups and they're there and everywhere. And obviously then in 2002, Abramovich comes in, money in, decent manager in, then they start winning titles. And when people we could be now converse with, the Big Six clubs didn't get to see the 90s Chelsea. They've seen the 2002 onwards Chelsea. And obviously that's all they remember. Obviously I've started following Brighton back basically when they were about to come out of League One. Obviously I went through the Championship all the way to the Premier League, and obviously I still feel like we're not the best, but we had we got a good story. We're a community-based club. We look after our own and whatever, but I don't feel that they have the same sort of attitudes and to basically say with the money and that, it's got to the point where say with agents and stuff, and it's one of, I think, what you look in the 90s, the top transfer was probably 10 million or something like that. Now we're in 100 and 200 million pounds, and it's crazy how it's just so inflated now, and it's just everything that's wrong with modern football now, and it's unfortunately the fans just don't see it that way, and they just see success, and when there's a club that once had that success, well, you're never going to get it. We deserve it. You don't. That sort of attitude.
I think to pick up on something you said, is about the history of the club. And I think our fans are so willing to learn about the history of our club and to carry the history forwards through the generations. And Cohen, I don't know how old you are, but you look a lot younger than what I am and what Dan is. But I'm imagining it's the same as yourself, that you're willing to learn about the history and you carry that forward, and you're going to carry that forward into the next generation as well. So how do you view that and in Brighton's terms of being where we are now as opposed to where we were 25 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, like I was only allowed to my first game, actually, that 5-0 loss against Bournemouth a few seasons back, and I've gone from that. I remember we had Montoya on the program, like the front cover of the program, and it's crazy how we've gone from there to where we are now. And yeah, I mean, I've gone from that being my first game to now I'll go up and down the country watching us. And yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know everything that happened when, like, before, but I know that we have come from like a bad place, and I mean, just where we are now is already crazy, and the fact that we could push on and be one of the best teams in England and the world is just, it's crazy. You know, hopefully we can, like, and we've gone from losing 5-0 to Bournemouth to beating Liverpool 3-0. It's crazy. And hopefully we can replicate that this weekend and then not replicate that 5-0 loss next weekend.
Yeah, I saw a really relevant GIF earlier. It was somebody it was a really weird GIF, but it was funny. It was somebody running through a minefield in some costume, and they got through it like completely scot-free. And somebody captioned it, "This is Brighton trying to get through their best season ever." Somebody just running through and just dodging all of these minefields. And he's so right, because we are having the best season we've ever had. We're in the best position we've been after 19 games in the Premier League. And you know, we're probably feeling positive about beating Liverpool tomorrow, which is absolutely nuts. And, you know, as you say, for three or 4 years ago to be losing 5-0 to Bournemouth at home, and to even before that under Sami Hyypiä when we were scraping relegation in the Championship, you go back further. It's just crazy to see the journey. But let's end this on a positive note, guys. Let's look ahead to tomorrow very, very, very quickly. How are we feeling? Are you feeling a win, Cohen?
I'm not saying anything. Every single time, apart from actually when we beat Liverpool 3-0, I predicted that. I predicted 3-0 to the Albion, and yeah, but every single other time I've got it wrong. So
well, if it's Liverpool,
saying,
you might do it again.
True. I don't know, because as well, it also depends on who we play. I want to see Sarmiento, obviously, because I'm a massive Sarmiento fan, and yeah, I think it's going to be a lot tighter. I think we might win 2-1, maybe. That's what my prediction is going to be.
Cool. And I hear you're sitting in the North Stand for the first time tomorrow. Is that right?
Yeah. I've got a season ticket in the South, right next to the away fans. It is eventful.
Yeah, I used to sit there. I moved last season just before the Palace game. The club moved us, which was really good of them. But what I find over in the southwest corner is it's so hit and miss. Like if the away fans are giving it, then it's really good. But other than that, the atmosphere. I'm sure you'll enjoy the atmosphere in the North Stand. It's going to be great. I'm actually in the West Upper tomorrow. So.
Oh yeah, that was one of my first games in the West Upper as well. I think my first one, that Bournemouth game, was West Lower.
Okay. Yeah, I've never sat in the upper tiers. All this time that the Amex been open, I've never sat in the upper. So I'm really looking forward to tomorrow.
Hopefully.
BHA MK says 3-0 Brighton. I like that.
If
I like
we do
positive.
that again.
Alfie Grove 2-1. James says he's less confident about tomorrow than he was for the last game. Yeah, it's the cup. I'm going in tomorrow a little bit more relaxed, to be honest, just to enjoy the football match. And Jurgen Klopp's going to be looking for revenge.
Were you at Charlton?
I was at Charlton. Yeah,
that was awful. That was awful.
I had the flu. And I felt like absolute crap. And I just wanted to go home so bad.
I missed the first 20 minutes because of the whole ticket thing. And but
you're one of them.
Hopefully we won't have the same thing in the cup and lose
Fingers
on
crossed not.
penalties.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed not.
Yeah.
Dan, what are you thinking for tomorrow?
I think, as we all say, I think it's gonna be a different game. I think they're going to be well up for it this time. Say especially for revenge as well. You know, yeah, and as well they're going to know what's sort of to expect and who to sort of target and who's going to be. I think they're probably maybe trying to target more like Matoma and all that, and basically probably change a lot of what they did before. It is going to be a very tough game. I think it's going to be as you said, a tighter game. But I still have that hope that we can still get through and get to the next round, and hopefully have a nice cup run to another look at Wembley.
I doubt Trent will play tomorrow.
Do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he just doesn't have the defensive capabilities to
Damn
deal
it.
with Matoma.
I've loved seeing Trent get absolutely ruined by Matoma this season. It's been a thing of absolute beauty. I want us to win, but I think it would be really funny if we took it to a replay and just to see Klopp's aneurysm on the sideline for having to play yet another game and add another game to his schedule. I find it funny when he goes on those rants. But I'm going to say a nice 2-1 win to the Albion. Obviously, with what's happening with Caicedo, there might be a bit of unrest in the squad. But the most important thing, guys, is for us Albion fans to stick together. I've seen a lot of people sort of having a few arguments and backwards and forwards on Twitter, but really remember, guys, we all support the same football club. We all want the same best outcome for our football club. So it's really important that we stick together and hope for a nice Albion win tomorrow. And Cohen, thanks so much for coming on, mate. Let us know where people can find you.
Yeah, on Twitter wait, can they see what's on the screen that we can see? Okay, yeah, that's my Twitter handle. Also follow the People's Football on Twitter. That's mine and Mavery's account. And yeah, that's basically it. Pretty much all I have Brighton wise.
Cool, nice one. And you're planning to do a podcast, is that right?
Yeah, on the People's Football. We'll have more information about that on the Twitter. But yeah,
perfect.
Thank you for having me.
Nice one, mate. No, really appreciate it. Dan, thanks as ever for coming on, mate. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. All the guys on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. We will see you next time on Albion Obsessed for some more ranting and some more crying about our players leaving. But anyway, take care, guys, and up the Albion.